There's no table of contents in the book of life. The unknown happens every day. This past July marked the 14th year anniversary of my dad's stroke that changed him forever. I'm old enough now to understand the significance of what happened and how blessed I am to have him alive today. July 5th was the start of a catastrophic disaster. My mom recalls that day being filled with scariness and uncertainty. My dad started by saying, "I think I have a kidney stone." Hours went by, and eventually we went next door to talk to our neighbor, who just happened to be a doctor, thankfully. Unfortunately, my dad wasn't fine, and our neighbor Steve Wren recommended my mom to bring him to the hospital because something just wasn't right. And boy, was he right. This was the start of a life-changing sequence of events for my dad. Once my mom arrived at the hospital, they immediately informed her that his aorta was dissecting. This meant that he would die if they didn't replace his aortic valve right away. He did okay in the first 14-hour surgery, but it soon took a bad turn, which was the first domino to fall in this tragedy. After this, my mom was informed that they were going to open him up. When they opened him up, they could see that my dad had gotten a horrendous infection in his heart. At this point, he just hit the first week of his surgery, and they told him that he'd have to do the surgery again. With several uncertainties in the air, my mom proceeded to ask the scary question that no one ever likes to ask. Will he survive that? Doctors informed her that he wouldn't survive if they didn't try. Another long 14-hour surgery took place. I was 5 at the time. I had no understanding of the magnitude and heaviness behind the scenario. He luckily did okay during this, but doctors came to the conclusion that my father has had a massive stroke that will leave him handicapped for the rest of his life. My only bored memories of this event was seeing us laugh in the cafeteria or walking by and seeing tubes attached to him everywhere. I was confused. Days and weeks went by, and eventually he wasn't able to walk, talk, or breathe on his own. His main source of food was a feeding tube. The infection came back a few days later. The doctor advised him to do another 14-hour surgery that would determine that he'd never be able to walk or talk again. My mom put matters in her own hands and made the executive decision for my dad to proceed and start rehab. Rehab was single-handedly the thing that saved my dad and made him the man he is today. With all my heart, I thank the people in Spalding, Massachusetts for saving my dad. To this day, I vaguely remember as a 5-year-old seeing families from my small town of Barrington, Rhode Island, showing tremendous empathy that I'm forever thankful for. Whether it was stopping by to say hi or giving my family meals, there was always support throughout this process. To this day, my dad has been walking with a limp every day for 14 years. He can't work, he can't drive, and his left arm is usually on his stomach because he can't extend it fully. He's limited in other areas that non-handicapped people don't always think about. Though he is limited, it doesn't stop him from trying and completing tasks. He wakes up at around 11:30 every day, rides his bike to town, rain, snow, or shine, gets his Starbucks coffee, a pastry, the New York Times, works out, goes to the grocery store, and cooks dinner for a family of 5, 6 nights a week. I couldn't have asked for a better dad, and I honestly mean that. I'm constantly inspired by him. It's safe to say that I didn't grow up with the average dad, and that's okay. The average dad drove his son to get ice cream or go to the mall, but in my case, as a young kid, I was riding the basket of his 3-wheeled bike. We still have done things that I'll never forget. Taking the train to New York City with him and my 2 older brothers, scalping tickets outside of Madison Square Garden, going to M&M World, and seeing the Empire State Building are just a few of our many adventures. Professional sports is pretty big in my family. We watch and talk about it all the time. Despite his condition, I'm lucky enough to have memories of wheeling him around Gillette Stadium at TD Garden and still being able to share our equal love for sports. I've appreciated the lessons that he gives me and my brothers through his tragedy. We joke around with him a lot, but it's all love. We have formed a special bond that can't be broken. His willingness to be independent, provide for a family of 5, and always be a good role model for me will sometimes go overlooked just because of how well he does it. Having an understanding that there are some things that he needs assistance with and to always be a willing, helpful hand to him will always be something that will stick with me. Secondly, another big thing I've learned from this is appreciating little things and never taking anything for granted. Doctors are still shocked to this day that he survived with all the odds stacked against him. One day, I asked him how he doesn't get so upset by everything that has happened to him and how he wakes up with such a good attitude. He responded with a very, very simple answer. I've always been a believer that everything happens for a reason. Through all this, my mom has been the MVP. She stuck by my dad in his darkest hours when it could have been easier for her to get up and leave. She juggles a lot of things, and I credit her for that all the time. Lastly, cherish yesterday. Life can come at you fast. You never know what yesterday will bring, and you never know when it might be the last yesterday. Dream your tomorrows. Something good will happen tomorrow. Trust the process and stay positive. Live your todays. There's no time like the present. Attack the day. Thank you for listening.